James Harden and Paul Millsap to the 76ers. The 76ers are sending the Nets Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round draft picks. That is according to multiple reports. Of course, this does break up the big three there in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden just a little more than a year after the Nets got Harden from the Rockets. It ends the long Ben Simmons saga that has been going down in Philadelphia. Simmons coming under fire for disappearing in the playoff loss to the Hawks. He demanded a trade after the season, and he has not played with his team since. Let's welcome in former NBA champ and coach of the year, Avery Johnson. Avery, we have a lot to unpack here. We're going to get to all of it, I promise. But are you surprised this actually happened?
Not really surprised, because the players in the NBA, they have all the power. If James Harden wants out of Houston and he wants to go specifically to Brooklyn, he gets traded to Brooklyn. If he wants out of Brooklyn and he wants to get traded to Philly to get reunited with Daryl Morey, he gets traded to Philly. So again, this is a situation when if you have a disgruntled player, if he's not happy, they lose to Boston 126-91. Kyrie Irving's not playing in home games. I guess he was a little bit concerned maybe about leadership or coaching. If that's the situation, he's got all the power. So I'm not really surprised. When I first heard of this trade, it wasn't like something that was not something that they can accomplish. They have matching salaries or close to having matching salaries. And I just think he wanted a new zip code. He believes in his heart probably that playing with Joel Embiid at the level at which Joel Embiid is playing at currently, which is an MVP level, that's a lot safer for him because of the question marks with Kyrie Irving not being potentially available in the playoffs for Nets home games.
He feels like that was safer. He also probably thought it was safer to go to the Nets and have the big three with him and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving as well. Let's talk about who gets what here, because you actually like this deal a little bit better for the Nets in the long term.
I do, Amanda. And when you look at, Kevin Durant coming back healthy, Kyrie, he's available. Now this puts Ben Simmons at a position where I think he's going to blossom, which is more of that kind of dynamic slashing 5-man. And then with all of that space and shooting around him, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, you look at Seth Curry. I know it's a tough day for Doc Rivers when you got to trade your son-in-law. But you look at Seth Curry and the way those guys, Cam Thomas, the young guy, the way they can spread the floor for Ben to get downhill. I don't think it's going to be a situation in the playoffs this year where he's not going to look at the basket and refuse to shoot or finish around the basket. I think this is a tailor-made situation for Ben Simmons to have the maximum amount of success playing with veteran championship players mixed in with some other guys, even Patty Mills, another guy that can spread the floor. So I like this trade a little bit more for the Nets.
Avery, how soon, though, could we see Ben Simmons play it? I mean, he hasn't played all season. He showed up to what I think 1-2 practices before they said, all right, you can just go ahead and go, because clearly you don't want to be here. Do you have any idea what shape he's in or when we could actually see him play?
Well, Amanda, here's the deal. I texted his agent, Rich Paul. I told him I was on CBS Sports HQ, and I asked about his condition. He said it's going to take some time, but physically he's there. He's improved. The change of scenery is going to be outstanding for him, and Ben is really excited. So that's a text from his agent, Rich Paul.
You flashed it just fast enough, or hopefully nobody's going to get a little screenshot there. We appreciate that info, though. I mean, it's going to take some time. If you're Kevin Durant and you're Kyrie and you're the rest of the Nets, James Harden's leaving, they've lost 9 in a row. Look, they're in a bad spot right now. We know that. They're down to, 8th, I think, in the East right now. How does this team come together now? How do they start to gel and move forward, or can they?
Yeah, I think they can gel and come together, but it's really about leadership. But I also believe, even though Kevin Durant's been out, because he's played, in NBA Finals, been the MVP before, played on our national team, I think actually this break is going to help him come back even stronger. Andre Drummond being included in this trade is going to be very helpful, especially when they play against teams like the Milwaukee Bucks and when they play against the Philadelphia 76ers. He's going to be able to hold his own and not be embarrassed playing against, guys like, Giannis and Joel Embiid. And then when they want to go smaller and play Ben Simmons at that position, can you imagine centers trying to match up with Ben Simmons? So they have a lot of versatility, flexibility moving forward. This will make or break season, especially for the Nets. This is what Kevin Durant went there for. He went there to win championships.
That's the talent, though. I mean, Steve Nash very, very well as almost anyone, though. What's your message to your team? I mean, how do you get that chemistry? Are Kevin Durant and Kyrie, are they excited to see Ben Simmons and company now coming? I mean, how do you unify this team even off the court?
Well, you spend time building those relationships, especially now with Ben Simmons. Ben obviously, had some issues where you just said mentally he wasn't ready to play. So you spend time, with him behind the scenes, figure out, what buttons to push with him. You figure out what type of voice that you need to use when you're trying to get his attention. You can't always operate with certain players with just an intense voice or a quiet voice or a disappointing voice. Sometimes you need an encouraging voice. And there are different buttons that you need to push with different players. So I think Steve will spend time with him trying to get to know him off the court so that when they're communicating on the court, it could be a little bit of a seamless transition. I know, fortunately for the Nets, having Jacque Vaughn as their head assistant on that staff is going to pay dividends for him, especially since he has some head coaching experience to try to fortify that coaching staff.
Avery, on the other side, you have Joel Embiid, who is now the betting favorite to be the MVP. They are now 5th in the East, so they've been performing better than the Nets have. Getting James Harden in there, and we know there's some question marks because if James Harden isn't happy, he might mail it in a little bit, but we assume he will be happy to be there. This is where he wanted to go. Give me your outlook for the 76ers now moving forward.
Well, it depends on which James Harden that's going to show up. Is it going to be the James Harden that's in really tip-top condition, that's not affected by the hamstring? Is it going to be the James Harden that's going to play at an MVP level and, three-point shots, step backs, the free throw line? I think with the rule changes a little bit, that's affected him. They're not bailing him out as much on some of his shots. But if James Harden is focused, Jay, if he's can play 38, 40, 2 minutes a game, he's going to dominate the basketball. If you're getting that James Harden that's going to be focused and be able to dominate games and especially be a problem solver at the end of shot clocks when your offense breaks down, that James Harden can do some dynamic things for the Philadelphia 76ers. So you can only imagine the pick and roll and the two-man game with he and Joel Embiid, with Joel rolling to the basket or occasionally popping for a three because he has three-point range. They could be very dangerous. But more than Joel Embiid and James Harden is going to be the others. Can Tyrese Maxey continue to improve? He's had an outstanding sophomore season. And some of the other players, they'll have to be able to make shots because if you don't, the floor will continue to shrink on James Harden and Joel Embiid.
Going to be very interesting to see what happens over the course. I'm trying to pull up the odds here. Yeah,
Amanda.
Yeah, go ahead.
Only the NBA could try to upstage Super Bowl week with a massive trade like this.
You're absolutely right. We're going to put the drama when it comes to the NBA. Things in the NFL were a little quiet until Sunday there. All right, there are the details of the trade. The thing I was going to mention there, the Brooklyn Nets right now, they're plus 240 to go ahead and win the East. Right behind them, the 76ers are plus 300. But of course, James Harden heading to his new team. Now the 76ers, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond heading to their new team, the Brooklyn Nets. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.